In the previous video, you learned the basics of the functions, how to create functions, how to return values, the return types, and so on. In this video, we're going to talk about accepting arguments, the default values, union types, argument unpacking, and more. You're able to define parameters of the function within the parentheses of the function definition. So for example, let's say we have a function called foo. So we can say x, comma, y, comma, and as many parameters as you need. Let's say that this function simply just multiplies x by y and returns that value. Then when we're calling that function, we need to pass the argument. So we can say 5 and 10, and we can echo that out, refresh the page, we get 50. Now I mentioned parameters and arguments. Parameters are these x and y here when they are defined within the function definition. So we call these parameters. The arguments are the actual values that we pass to the function for those parameters. So in this case, x and y are the parameters and 5 and 10 are the arguments that are being passed. Just like you were able to type hint the return values, you're also able to type hint the parameters. So we can say that we're expecting x to be integer and y to be integer as well. Now if we pass something like float or string, well, this will still work because we are not enforcing the strict types. As mentioned before, to do that we can declare strict types and now we'll get an error. I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. I personally like using strict types and I highly recommend it because when you explicitly define the types, you basically know exactly what the expected type of arguments are and what the expected type of the return value is. If you want to accept multiple types, thanks to PHP 8, now we have union types, which allows you to do that. And we covered that briefly in the previous lesson with the return types. So you can do that with the pipe character. So we can say that we're expecting either integer or float, and we can do the same thing here. And this will still fail because we're passing string here. So we can change that back to integer and refresh, and everything works as expected. As I mentioned before, I highly recommend to use strict type, especially when you are using union types, because type coercion can be tricky and result in unexpected values. I'm going to leave the link in the description to the documentation where you can read more about it. For every parameter, you need to pass an argument, otherwise you will get an error. So for example, if we forgot to pass the second argument here and we refresh the page, we're going to get an error. You're able to set the defaults of the parameters. So you can say that y by default, if not passed in, can be set to 10, for example. And now when we refresh the page, everything is still working. You could assign scalar, array, and null values as defaults. It cannot be a function call, or it cannot be an object or things like that. It has to be a constant expression. Another thing to note is that optional parameters must be defined after any non-optional parameters. So you cannot do something like have a required parameter and then have an optional parameter and then have another required parameter. This is not going to work. You have to have your optional parameters after all the required parameters. Arguments by default are passed by value, and you could change that and specify to pass by reference instead. In this example, function foo accepts 2 arguments, and if the first argument is an even number, then it divides by 2. Otherwise, it multiplies the first argument with the second argument. By default, when you pass the arguments, they're passed by value. So this is evaluated to 6, and 6 is passed by value. If you change x here, like we're doing it, right, we're saying x equals to x divided by 2, so x now becomes 3. It does not affect the original variable. We see here that the variable a is still 6. You could add the ampersand here, and now this indicates that we're passing the argument here by reference. So in this case, when we're passing a, instead of passing the value 6, we're passing the reference to the variable a. So right now, if we refresh, we're still going to get 21, but as you notice, the 6 here changed to 3. So the a is no longer 6, it now equals to 3 because we modified the variable within the function. All right, let's move on to the splat operator and the variadic functions. Variadic functions are functions that accept variable number of arguments. I'm going to rename this function to sum and remove the reference indicator here and simply say x plus y. Now if we do this, we're going to get 13. But right now we're limited to 2 arguments, right? I mean, we could pass another value here like 50. It doesn't get included in the calculation. Yes, you could add another parameter definition here and accept the third parameter and then add that in the calculation, but then you would have to do that for every argument that you pass. So instead of defining multiple parameters, you can just use the splat operator, which is ... and then the variable name, and it will capture the arguments that are being passed to the function into an array. And numbers will now be an array containing all those arguments. So now you could do all kinds of calculations to this because it's an array and you could use a bunch of built-in array functions. You could also iterate over that array and just calculate the sum manually. So you could do sum equals to 0 and then for each numbers as number, sum plus equals to number, and return sum. Now we can pass as many arguments as we want, and we refresh, we get the correct value. Instead of doing this, you could actually use an array built-in function to sum the values. You could call array sum numbers and get rid of this and refresh, and you'll get the same value. Note that the splat operator can be used after a fixed number of parameters, in which case only the arguments passed after that will be added to the array. What I mean by that is that you could define the way we had it before, int float x, int float y, and only after that capture all the other arguments into the numbers array. So now what's going to happen is that x and y will equal to 6 and 7, and everything else will be captured within the numbers array. So here we could do x plus y plus array sum numbers, and we'll get the same result. Now in real application, you would probably never do something like this. In real application, you would maybe do some kind of processing with the arguments that are being passed. Maybe you would iterate over them, perform some checks, some processing, and only then do your calculations. But this is just to show you how it works. You could also type hint all the arguments that are being passed. Right now we can pass this as strings and it will still work. We're not going to get any errors even though we are in strict mode. You could type hint the numbers here the same way, int or float, and now all the arguments that are being passed and captured by the array have to be of that type. So as you can see, it's underlining these two, and we're going to get an error. We'll have to change these to integer or float. You might be asking, can't you just use an array and accept one parameter as an array and just pass these arguments as elements within an array? The answer to that is yes, but the splat operator allows you to define the types of each element, where in an array you cannot define the type. Splat operator can also be used to unpack array into argument list. For example, what if you had these in an array? So let's say we had numbers here. We cannot just pass this in, right? We're going to get an error because this is not an integer or float. You could actually unpack these into separate arguments, and you can do that by using the splat operator here. So you can add 3 dots here, and what's going to happen is that it will pass these as separate arguments. So if we refresh, we're going to get the same result. Note that the splat is not an official name of this operator. I'm just using that because it's what's most commonly used, but you may have seen this operator being called ellipsis operator, unpacking operator, and so on. Also, since PHP 7.4, you could use this operator to unpack arrays within other arrays, which can also be referred to as a spread operation. With that being said, let's move on to a new feature that was introduced in PHP 8, and that is named arguments. Named arguments allow you to pass arguments to the function based on the parameter variable name, which means that it doesn't have to be in order. What I mean by that is that when you're passing arguments to the function, you have to pass them in order in which they were defined. In this case, we're defining the parameter x and parameter y, and here we're checking if x is divisible by y evenly, then divide it and return it, otherwise just return the x. And here we're passing the values for x and y, and we're getting the correct result. But what if you messed up the order and you put y first and then you put x after? You refresh and you're going to get 3, which is the value of y. Now what's happening is that you pass in the value of y, which is 3, in the place of parameter x, and 3 is not divisible by 6, and therefore you're returning 3. Since PHP 8, PHP actually allows you to name your arguments. So you can say that this is the value for the parameter y, and this is the value for the parameter x. Now if we refresh, we're going to get the correct result. The order no longer matters. There are many use cases for this. One of them is that if you ever want to change the order of the parameter definition here, you would have to go in and search in your code where this function is used and update the ordering there as well. With the named arguments, you no longer have to worry about updating your existing functions because the ordering doesn't matter when you're using named arguments. However, if you ever change the name of the parameter, then you would still have to go in your code and update the named arguments, because now the named argument would not match the name of the parameter. Another really good use case for named arguments is when you have a bunch of parameters that have default values. For example, PHP has a function called setCookie, and we're going to talk about cookies in later videos. Just bear with me here. If you look at its parameters, a bunch of these parameters have defaults. So you just need to pass in the name argument and it will work just fine. But what if you wanted to pass the name value and only the last argument? In that case, let's say we pass in foo and then some kind of value, and then to get to the last argument, you have to pass all the other arguments as well, and you have to put in the default values yourself. So you have to put 0, empty string, false, and an HTTP only, you would have to turn into true. So as you can see, in order for us to turn on the HTTP only to true, we had to pass all these other arguments ourselves. With the named arguments, you actually don't need to do that, and you can simply name these base argument HTTP only and name the other ones too, name value, and this will work just fine. As you can see, this looks a lot more cleaner. You don't have to worry about passing in those default values, and if in the future those default values change, you don't have to change yourself in your code. If you pass the same parameter multiple times, you will get an error. So in this case, what if we pass x multiple times like this? We're going to get an error because x overrides the previous argument. You could also combine named arguments with the positional arguments as long as the named arguments come after the positional arguments. So let's say we're passing x here, which is positional argument. It's not named, so it will pass this value for the parameter x, and then for the second argument we can specify the name, and we can say that this is for y and set it like that, and it will work. But if you set this to x again, it will also conflict because you already have an argument for the parameter x here and you're passing in another one, and this will give you an error. One more thing to note here is that when you're using argument unpacking, if your array contains associative array keys, then those keys will be treated as the argument names. So what I mean is that, let's say instead of x and y we had an array and we had x equals to 1 and y equals to 2, and instead of passing x and y here as named arguments, we just unpacked the arguments this way, and now if we refresh we're going to get 1. So let's var dump x and y here. Let's see what we get. So x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 2. So as you can see, these keys are being treated as argument names. So even if I put these out of order, it will still work and x will still be passed as 1. The non-associative elements will be treated as positional arguments. So if I remove this key from here, the 2 will be passed for the parameter x, and then it will try to pass x again and it will fail with the same error. So as you can see, named arguments can be very useful. Let me know what you think about the named arguments in the comments. This is it for this video. In the next lesson we'll talk about the variable scopes. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my tutorials, please give this video a thumbs up, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.